All right. Moving right along into the last topic of the day, we're going to talk about it finally seems like we're not fucking focusing on fucking Russia as Biden has agreed to let Russians build that fucking pipeline. And we're focusing on China. We have started gearing our Air Force to not fight in the Middle East, but to fight in the Pacific theater. And we've been fanning out over the atolls. But let's get into this.
That's how winning is done.
Anticipating war with China, the U.S. Air Force is fanning out across the Pacific. For years, the U.S. Air Force concentrated its warplanes at just two bases in the Western Pacific for fighters, uh, Katadena Air Force Base in Japan's Okinawa Prefecture, and for bombers and big support planes, Guam's Andersen Air Force Base. Beijing eyed these mega bases and devised a simple strategy for suppressing U.S. air power in the region, build a couple thousand non-nuclear ballistic missiles and in wartime lob them at the bases until they're runaways. Aprons, hangars, fuel tanks, and warehouses are nothing but craters. uh, having our just one location, two locations, that's fucking dumb. We probably should have been, whether we're preparing for war or not, we should have been fanned out the whole fucking time. Because
Winning?
that's just
No.
fucking smart, and that's how winning is done. After years of building up the Chinese rocket forces, possessions around 1,300 ground-launched missiles with sufficient range to hit Cartagena and Anderson from mainland China. The USAF is keenly aware of the threat. It has its own plan for dodging the missile barrages. The idea is to spread out hundreds of warplanes across potentially dozens of small bases, thus diluting the striking power of China's rocket force, which we just talked about. That should have been the fucking plan the whole fucking time. I mean, I don't understand why we were fucking doing that. The Air Force won't say exactly which bases are part of its plan. Of course it wouldn't, and that's fucking smart, but it's possible to make educated guesses. American territories and small island countries offer the most dependable facilities. Arguably, the most important bases in the Philippines are accessible only at the whim of the country's mercurial president. The emerging map of the USAF's expanding bases networks also reveals where the services are potentially airfield gaps most glaringly in the Philippine Sea east of Taiwan. In the gap, the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet might lend its sister service as a helping hand and deploy some of its 10 aircraft carriers and big deck ships. Yeah, Taiwan is our ally. We should probably help them, but I really don't want war. But it looks like war with China is going to be inevitable.
Winning? No.
I don't care about fucking stimulus checks and the Air Force maintains a master list of what General Kenneth Willsbatch, the head of Pacific Air Force, described as every single piece of concrete in the Pacific region. We have a plan for all of those airfields, and some of them meet the criteria, and they're therefore part of what we call clusters. Willsbatch told Air Force magazine last year some of the bases are main hubs in the network, others are spokes. So see, they're fanning out across all the atolls again, like we did during World War II when we first took the Pacific. Aircraft, fuel, weapons, and supply. That's war footing to me. Not to mention people would move through the hubs. The smaller spoke bases, the more often people and stuff move, the safer they are from Chinese rockets. That's the theory. An alphabet soup of concepts underpins the new base networks. The practices of breaking up 20 plane fighter squadrons and dispersing small detachments of jets to outlying bases is called Agile Combat Employment, or ACE. Bomber squadrons are practicing their own dispersal as part of their new Bomber Task Force operation to BTF. The Air Force plans to reinforce the most austere airfields and pre-packed sets of equipment under those so-called deployable air-based systems, or DABs. To move munitions along the base network, the Flying Branch has developed a procedure. It's called Tactical Ferry, or TAC Ferry, whereby a fighter such as an F-15E loads up with more bombs than it could ever use in combat and delivers them to whichever airfield it's going to be flying from, in essence, saving the weapons for later.
Winning?
Palau, Micronesia, and Myrians on small island countries in the mid-Pacific are keen to host American forces. That adds at least another half a dozen airstrips to the USAF's list. The U.S. Air Force already periodically stages bombers at Darwin in Australia, added to the list too. Less certain are the airstrips that lies closest to China and the likeliest war zone Taiwan. They're all in the Philippines. Clark Air Base and T2 Island are two good examples. Before the election of volatile strongman Rodrigo Duterte in 2016, the USAF probably could count on Philippines bases during clash with China. But Duterte has courted China and criticized the United States. His administration isn't a dependable U.S. ally. When Duterte leaves office in 2022, U.S.-Philippine relations could change, and the ACE space network could grow. It might need to grow more after all the Chinese buildings start getting rocketed. I mean, it is what it is. Here we go, and we're getting there. We're fanning out across the Pacific. We're taking a war footing where we're using Pacific weaponry. We're stockpiling weaponry all across the goddamn atolls. We're preparing for war with China because it's coming, and it's coming quick.
Winning.
I don't know how we're gonna move forward. I don't know what's gonna happen. I know this is Thucydides' trap, but I think it's way too I think we're way too advanced and way too forward for this to go any other way. Um, we're too interconnected. China's trying to become a superpower. America's trying to remain a superpower, and clashing is the only way we're going to be able to go here. It's the only way we're going to get done. I'm just saying. But anyway, this is all I have for you today. As always, I'm Doc Camo. This has been my thought of the day. Please consider being a member and checking out those exclusive contents, the exclusive clips that we have for you that you can only get nowhere else but on the website. You also get early access and a myriad of other benefits. But I'll see you in the next one. Peace.